Welcome to Data and AI Conversations with Surya. That's me. Here we dive into real stories, insights, and career journeys. So let's get started. First of all, thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this. And let me introduce you to our listeners first. So, Reitse is a Microsoft MVP. You're also a Microsoft MCT, so that's the certified trainer.
Yes.
You're from Netherlands. You work as a data platform consultant at Axians Business Analytics.
Yes, that's correct.
And on top of that, you have a very active blog, which you post very regularly. You have YouTube channels, and you have been awarded the most active speaker badge for 3 years now in Sessionize. Is that right?
Apart from the YouTube channel, yes, this is correct because I don't do YouTube at all, to be honest.
Mhm.
Valerie is doing the YouTube stuff for the Surya, the Data Platform 700 certification series. So
Mhm.
I'm writing the blog post and she's doing the YouTube video. Just
Yeah.
like creating reports, doing videos is a lot like trying to do something design-wise, and that's just not anything I'm good at. So I'm much happier just slamming away at my keyboard.
Right. But then it's a good partnership, isn't it? You and Valerie, then. I
Yeah.
think I saw YouTube videos, or I mean, not the ones that you created, but like on Microsoft Fabric and other things. So there are videos of you floating, even if you haven't actually just have a channel of your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So it's a perfect partnership.
That's good. So can you tell me briefly, like, what are the main topics of interest that you have in terms of technology? Like, did you get started with SQL Server?
Oh, the main topics of technical interest, there's so many.
There's so many. Exactly. When I was looking through your stuff, and I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, well, I'm going to ask you so you can tell me what you like.
So I started way back in early 2000s. No, even earlier when I was at some form of education where I started with Microsoft Access, which I didn't understand at all. And to be honest, I
Mhm.
still don't really understand it. Then I ran into Oracle 9 something, where I just got a black screen and a red blinking cursor, and it was like, do your stuff. And I thought, what am I supposed to do here? So, but that's what triggered my interest in everything with databases and data. So from there on, I changed jobs and ran into SQL Server, and that's when really things really started flying. Installing SQL Server is the easiest thing you can do. It's just like next, finish, and it's done, and it's all working magically. And I had opinions, especially because the installation is around 3 to 4 gigabytes on your disk, and I thought, why is this big installation just next, finish? There should be some kind of configuration possible. So I started digging into it, reading a lot of blog posts and trying stuff out to find out what can go wrong. It turns out things can go really wrong. One of the things I learned is when you tell SQL Server you got a maximum of 20 megabytes of memory, it doesn't really start anymore.
Right.
To the point that it's a completely broken installation and you need to figure out how to get it working again. But again, there are blog posts online that will help you do that. And that kind of was an inspiration as well to start writing blog posts.
Hmm.
For those people who are stuck somewhere, you found a solution. And when you write a blog post, somebody else will read it and be unstuck because they can read, this is the solution, or this is how I can get one step further to either a different error message or even to something that works again. A lot of other technology that's interesting to me as well because I've done a lot of Azure stuff, deploying the info. They call it infrastructure, but it's just some stuff on the screen in the end, all visualized. But deploying the resources in Azure, trying to figure out how everything communicates and how to do it securely. I love tinkering with that and finding out how to do that. And I was really happy when I learned things like infrastructure as code, where you don't have to click through the Azure portal anymore, but just write a lot of code that will do the deployment for you
Hmm.
and does it repeatedly as well. So if you have one environment and you need three more. It's just run the code again, change one variable or whatever, and it does the same thing again. And that's so much fun to do.
So when you're speaking, do you speak mainly about the fabric stuff now, or do you cover a wide range?
I try to submit a wide range of topics, but the funny thing is, Fabric is picked most of the times because it's the most hot
Right.
and happening thing at the moment.
Mhm.
And it's a bit of a double feeling. On the one hand, on one end, I like it because there's a lot of stuff happening there, and you get really good interaction, and people are interested. On
Mhm.
the other hand, there's so much more than just Fabric. My
Mhm.
MVP status is based on both Microsoft Fabric and Azure SQL, and I still really like Azure SQL or even SQL in general. There's so much happening there and so much improvement going on that doesn't get the limelight right now that Fabric gets,
Mhm.
which I think it deserves it. There's more than just Fabric.
Cool. Well, I for one, I'm glad that you are speaking quite a lot because that's how we met, isn't it? We
Yep.
we met at Data Scotland
Oh yes.
last year. Yes, I think we had a very brief chat at the speaker dinner, but I do remember that I was looking to borrow a clicker from the organizers, and you offered yours to me.
Yeah, sure. We're there to help each other, so why not?
Yep. And you were also there at my talk at the conference. Now, I think you were there because you're like one of the kindest people I've met in this community. So that is one reason you were there. But I think it's also to make sure that your clicker was safe and I didn't run away with it. So which one do you think it is? Both?
I was mainly interested in the topic and the session you were giving and the way you were presenting. For me, you were a completely new presenter, somebody I hadn't seen before, hadn't heard about before. So I was just genuinely curious into what you were doing, what your style would be, how you would interact with the audience, and I hope I'm not saying anything weird right now, but before the session, you told me you were a bit nervous. So I was curious on how you would handle that and what would happen. Um, and for those of you who are listening or watching this session, it didn't show. It just was an amazing session with a lot of fun and a lot of interaction and laughs and fun. And I think one of the better sessions of that day.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank you. But to be honest, I did find that as well because since then I've been speaking quite a lot as well. But I found that the moment I get started, it all clicks in, whatever nervousness is there, because, I know what I'm talking about. And I also know that I
Yep.
can manage a room, if that makes sense, because I used to teach before. So it's kind of a combination of two skills. And you gave me really actionable feedback after the session. I, and I was like, whoa, I didn't even think of these things. And your response was that it is because you had a really good mentor.
Yes.
So could you tell me a bit more about your mentor and your experience there?
Yeah, so I started public speaking in, I think it was 2020 at the New Stars of Data conference by Ben Weisman and William Durkin.
Hmm.
And the way they work is you just submit something that resembles an abstract. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just like, this is what I would like to talk about in a session. And from there on, they make a selection if they think it's got potential in one way or the other.
Hmm.
And then they couple you with a mentor who's an experienced speaker who may or may not be an expert in the field you're speaking on. And together you're just going to find out how to get to the point where you're going to actually deliver the session.
Hmm.
So I was coupled with Jeff Pomfret,
Hmm.
who in the first meeting told me, I don't know how we're going to do this either, but we're going to do it together and we're going to find out. And in the first session, it was just like, all right, what do you want to talk about? What's the current state of your session, slide-wise? What's the storyline? What's the content? Which way do you want to go with it? And all she did was like encourage me in developing the session and giving me simple tricks to make life easier. And one of the best tricks she told me or taught me was put timing in your slide notes. So
Okay.
the
Yeah.
first slide starts at 0, and at some point you're in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or whatever makes sense for your session. And it really helps during the session to find out if you're still on schedule or you're running a little ahead or a little behind. Stuff like that still is in my head when I'm creating new sessions as well.
Mhm.
To try it out and find out, am I running on time? How's the timing of my session? Is it okay? Am I overdoing something? The other thing she taught me was to use, at that time it was only on PowerPoint online,
Mhm.
to rehearse your session, and you get some kind of feedback from PowerPoint on the way you're talking, if it's too fast, too slow, if you're
Yeah.
using a lot of the same words, stuff like that. Tips like that and suggestions and in the end a lot of support and encouragement just meant the world to me, and it still does. And it's so fun to see her every now and then at conferences and revive those memories and see how far we've come from where we started about 5 years ago.
Oh, that's lovely. And it's like a circle of mentorship now because you are passing on the advice to the next people, isn't it?
A mentor to 3 speakers now, I think, in New Stars of Data. As you say, passing it on and helping other people to grow into the. It's not really a profession, but the skill of speaking and public
Mhm.
speaking and sharing knowledge. It's so much fun to do.
Definitely. So next, we have some recurring segments that I normally ask people similar kind of questions. So the first one is a career curveball. So was there any moment where your career took an unexpected turn? Maybe where you had, have a bit of resilience kicking in.
There were a few ones. The first one is, I think it's about 16 years ago.
Okay.
I was working for a government agency,
Mm-hmm.
and I was doing really easy stuff like processing meals, things like that. And at some point, the manager there found a few people from who we thought, well, maybe this person can do a little bit more than just mail processing. So we thought, let's put this person behind a computer and a silly program and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it, and for some reason he picked up on it. He said, "Well, let's put you in another level. See what happens when you're going to do this."
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, I became something like a program admin. I don't know what the exact word is in English. Um, and a file manager, which basically meant copy files from one machine to another one. And that's also where I met Oracle 9
Okay.
and had to find out how can I write queries for this machine, how can I write procedures, how can I change data when data has been entered incorrectly, stuff like that. And that's where things started rolling, because before that I'd studied both as for human resources and psychology,
Okay.
which doesn't have all that much to do with computers, to be honest. Well, maybe on the user side, but not on the technical side. So that was the first major change really in my career. The second one, also already mentioned, was 2020, when I got the chance to start speaking and massively changed my career effectively, because I
Mm-hmm.
went from my company to somebody who dared to stand out and stand in front of the coworkers and share knowledge and teach even.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being an average employee in a company, so that's not the point I'm trying to make. But for me, it really worked to take the next step
Mm-hmm.
and yeah,
And
share
and it
knowledge.
Yeah, and it's really like the Microsoft MVP program that lets you like have that spotlight in a way as well and encourage
Yeah,
other people to do the same, which is
yeah.
quite interesting. Cool. So the next section is data hot takes. So is there any surprising opinion about data that you've heard? Or AI? It's fine.
Um, I know Copilot has been taking a lot of flack lately, and people are saying, "Well, you shouldn't use it, or it's bad, or whatever." When I see the work Microsoft is doing on Copilot, especially on the data side, I think it's going to be a really useful helper, especially if you're not an expert on any of the tools Copilot is integrated in. And I would like to expand a little bit on that one because there are people who are quite adamant. Copilot on SQL Server, for instance, it's rubbish and you shouldn't use it and you should be able to write your own queries.
Hmm.
Those people are the ones who know a lot about writing queries, have been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years, I don't know. They're experts. I think Copilot isn't meant for them, to be honest. It's meant for the people who are, especially coworkers in my company, for instance, who are on the support department, who are who are supporting customers daily, who are not specialists but more generalists in all
Hmm.
the tools we are providing to our customers. They're not a specialist on SQL Server. They're not a specialist on Microsoft Fabric. They're not a specialist on the ClickView or ClickSense stack we're helping our customers with. They know a little bit of everything. For them, Copilot can be a massive help to quickly find out what's happening on a database or how to write a query to find out something on that database, for instance. It is such a powerful tool for them that I think Copilot can do a lot of good for people who are not the deep specialists, not the MVPs, not the MCTs or the SQL Server certified people who know everything and know every management view or function or whatever in the database. So I think it's a really good addition to the entire Copilot stack and the data stack.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I have used any sort of coding help, what I have found is that it works a lot better if I break the problem down into narrower scopes and then ask it to do something really, really specific rather than
Mhm.
asking it to generalize and do end to end of something where everything goes wrong. And then you try to fix something, then it doesn't work at all. So that's,
Mhm.
the skill of breaking down into smaller things, like understanding the overall flow, that and all is still needed. But maybe, yeah, you don't need to remember the syntax as much as you used to before.
Exactly, and I also think that having to break down the entire problem into smaller parts also helps yourself in finding the root cause of the problem because you
Hmm.
need to focus on small parts. So that's an important takeaway as well.
Yep.
So good addition.
So the next section is insider intel. So what is the one essential tip every data and AI professional should know?
What you should know is that everything will keep changing. I think 20 years ago, the default kind of sort of was you're using SQL Server and some kind of visualization tool on top of it. If you were working with Microsoft, it would be SQL Server reporting services, maybe in combination with analysis services and integration services. Or you were using some kind of other tool like ClickView or like data services from SAP or any other tool. There were so many. Right now, there's a completely different playing field, if you will. Companies are constantly trying out new tools, new ways of working with the data. It's no longer set into structured data into a database, but it can be unstructured data in a data lake. It can be real-time data coming from devices. Everything will keep changing, and we're not done changing because I don't think in 5 to 10 years we'll still be working with Fabric the way Fabric is right
Mhm.
now. And maybe there's a new kid on the block. I don't know, but things keep changing, so you need to keep up with all the changes and find out what works for you.
Yeah, you have to keep learning, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's where the conferences are quite helpful as well. So how do
Oh
you
yes.
balance how do you balance it all? Like how do you manage the work-life balance? Is there any hobbies that you have that helps you recharge?
Oh, that's a hard one because this is one of those things where do as I say, not do as I do. Because the work-life balance it's so difficult to maintain. Especially when you're passionate about a subject and you want to dig in deep, and even
Mm.
more so when the subject is constantly changing, like the Copilot stuff, like Fabric, like the Azure SQL databases. So I'm spending way too much time in the evening and in the weekends tinkering with things, finding it out, writing blog posts, going to conferences. Um, but in a way, going to a conference is like relaxation as well, because you're with like-minded people. You have a lot of conversations on the subject, but also on completely different things. Some conferences even offer activities outside the conference, like walks or just going out and having fun somewhere else. But to prevent myself from falling over, I'm trying to do some exercise, like cycling, both on a racing bike, on a mountain bike in the forest in the Netherlands, because we're a famously flat country, so mountains are not something in our country. It's like
Right.
5 meters up, and it's a big climb.
It is a good thing, isn't it? Though having a nice flat cycle, place to cycle around, and you can go by a cycle everywhere without being out of breath. But I suppose when you do approach mountains, then you're like, okay, don't think I'm ready for this.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, climbing up one isn't the biggest challenge. It's usually going down, because you get a lot of extra speed. It's like, how do I handle this? It's going way too fast. It's scary. But also, I'm involved in one of the Dutch national sports called speed skating, where I'm doing a lot of timing for that sport, which means I'm going out. I'm going to different venues, time the speed skaters, and have a lot of fun with that as well.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, just having fun through things that
Yeah.
you do outside away from the laptop again, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so the final question is a very divisive one. So, which one would you prefer, like sweet or savory stuff?
Savory.
Savory.
Yeah.
You know, of all the people I've asked this so far, not a single person has said sweet.
Oh, that's weird.
That is weird because, I am a very, sweet loving person. And I'm like, come on, people, can somebody come into this category already? I remember talking to Valerie, and she said that for her it's cheese, I suppose, because you're in the Netherlands. So is that true for you too?
Well, I like cheese, but not that much that it would be my favorite.
Mhm.
As I'm not a vegetarian, I do like fleshy stuff.
Mhm.
But a good pizza will never go amiss, or some Mexican food. It's always good, but it's never really sweet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough. So, do you have any upcoming events, projects, or anything exciting that you would like to share with our audience?
In April, I'm going to a new event in the southern part of the Netherlands called SQL Saturday, where it's not SQL written as we are used to, but the C is SEA, as in the sea.
Oh, okay.
A big watery thing with waves.
Okay.
I'm really interested in what they're going to do with it, because it's a completely new one. The people
Mhm.
organizing it just thought, well, let's see if we can organize something different. So they're going to start out quite small this year with, I think, 50 attendees. If you're listening and want to attend, I think there's still tickets available right now. And like, yeah, let's see what happens. Give these people a chance to see if they can get something going. And I'll be there with, I think there are 10 or 12 speakers, something like that.
Okay.
It will be really interesting. And the next big event I'm going to, as a volunteer at least, is SQL Bits in London.
Yeah, I'll be there as well. So we'll see you there in
Oh,
SQL
very
Bits.
cool. Ah, nice.
Yeah.
We'll meet up there.
I recently got an email saying that, I've been picked. So I'm like, yay, that's going to be nice.
Yeah.
I do love that because they are one of the conferences that do things outside. the speaking
Yeah.
stuff, isn't it? They do a lot of activities in the evenings and things like that. So that's pretty exciting.
One of the best things they do, and that really works for me, they've got the big party night where there's a huge party with a lot of loud music and stuff happening. The best thing they're doing is they've got a quiet zone as well, where you can sort of kind of be involved in the party, but you're not into the really loud music
Hmm.
stuff, which works really well for me because I don't do loud music for a long time very well. It just messes with my head and I don't really like it. So the
Hmm.
quiet zone where I can still have a normal conversation with people is just excellent for me. And I love it that they do that every year and provide that opportunity for people who are maybe a little bit different. Uh,
Yes.
so they're really into the neurodiverse stuff as well because I'm not really neurodiverse, I think, compared to people who are really into that part, but it just makes me happier going into a little bit more quiet zone.
Yeah, it's good to have the option, isn't it? Because I think they have a quiet zone in the conference days as well. Like on the day in the morning, I'm pretty sure I've spotted like sofas and things that are a bit
Yeah.
further away, saying, just if you want to chill out for a little while.
Yeah.
And the sequel buddies are very helpful as well. So,
Yeah, those are the amazing people. So when I went to SQL Bits the first time, live, I mean, it was also in the Excel in London.
hmm.
One of the buddies picked me up and helped me connect to people because at that point I wasn't really a person who would naturally.
Hmm.
And Angela Henry just picked me up and introduced me to people and told me, "Oh, this is this person, and we're gonna have fun and have a chat." And before I knew it, I was kind of sort of embedded into a part of the community. And from that point on, it started growing naturally. But yeah, her help was amazing at that point in time. And it's also so much fun to meet her again.
Ah, brilliant. That's great. I mean, this has been a fantastic conversation. So thank you so much for giving up a bit of your time to do this. I know you're ridiculously busy.
My pleasure. And it's fun to talk about stuff like this and hopefully help people somewhere along the road.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons I'm doing this is because a lot of the people from the technical coding, whatever we are into, they don't naturally align to going out and talking to people.
Yep.
So knowing that all of us have come through different ways to get to the same point is,
Yep.
I hope, is an inspirational stories that they can listen
I
to.
hope so as well. And I think the best part of the data community, as the way I know it, is you can still be who you are. If you're quiet
Exactly.
and an introvert, fine. Just be who you are. Nobody's gonna criticize you or ask you
Mhm.
weird questions. It's just like be who you are. Make sure you're happy and you're comfortable in whatever way you are. It's always hard to find the right words for this, but you be you is essentially what it's all about. And I think the data community lets you be you in whatever shape, form, or whatever you are. And I love that.
That's great. That's a really good message to finish on as well,
Yeah.
isn't it?
You be
Well,
you, always.
you be you. Well, thank you.
My pleasure.
And that's a wrap. I really appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to follow for more and share it with others. See you at the next one. Till then, keep connecting and keep learning.